only then that's when it's worth evaluating. Not even saying starting to systemize, but you evaluate what are the things that eat up my time the most. And for most entrepreneurs at the start, it's like the delivery of whatever the service or product is. It's the operational work, and that's what you should probably outsource first, because then that frees you up to go do more of what you should be doing.
Hey guys, it's Snippet here and welcome to my channel where I help you to achieve time freedom so you have more time for self, family, business and life. Now in this video, you're going to meet Richard Phu, our operations manager at Outsourcing Angel. His background has been in management consulting, working for companies like KPMG, so basically a large firm. And when he came on board, he really helped to systemize my business. Now in this video, you're gonna learn how to systemize, when to systemize, and everything you need to really scale your business. Now at Outsourcing Angel, our goal is to really help you scale so that you don't have to be in the business. So this is a video that you must watch so that you can really scale this year.
Hi Richard, how are you? Thank you so much for coming on my call to teach people about systemizing your business.
Thanks, Lynn. I'll try my best, right? I mean, there's probably a lot more we can go through, but I'll try and answer all the questions and hopefully provide the audience here with something useful and actionable steps to take home after.
Yeah. Well, just a quick one. Introduce yourself. What do you do at OA and what your title is?
Yeah, I mean, for now, it's head of operations. So what that means is I pretty much report to Lynn and Lynn only, right? And Lynn, you just throw me whatever you want me to do and I'll do it. But typically what I look after is about systems, processes, technology, and people, as well as customer experience.
Yeah.
So that's predominantly the main part of my work here at OA.
And what made you, I know before you joined OA, you were already trying to help business owners with systemizing and having that freedom. Like, why were you interested in that area and what was the passion behind it?
It's a good question, man. I mean, like, I don't think anyone just wants to become a systemizer or that type of person. It's kind of like, I just fell into it really, Lynn. Like at university, I did a finance and an IT degree. And then I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to use this for. All I know is I love computers and technology. So yeah, I'll just stick around with that. And I applied for an internship at KPMG in Sydney, right? One of the big four accounting firms. And I'm like, I wanted to join the corporate finance side, which is all about, hey, how do we make money and make more money of it, right? And I was like, yeah, that's all I care about right now. And then they said, hey, you got IT, so why don't you come in and join the IT side, which is more consulting. And turns out the consulting was about like 5% and 95% of it was auditing, right? And assurance work. And in that space, you're just pushed into focusing on how do people do things at work in terms of the IT side, and how do they make sure that they have the right controls in place so that people can't do dodgy stuff. Like, you know, they can't change the financials, right? So it looks better than it should be in the bank. So we would check that type of stuff, and it just was ingrained in me after doing it for like 8 years. It's something I fell into, but it's also something that I think I'm just naturally gravitate toward being logical and systematic, right? So everything should have a place. And this is the thing, after I left that, I realized, you know what, guys, I thought about it with entrepreneurs. I'm like, everyone thinks business is sexy, fun, and crazy, and awesome, and all that. I'm like, no, I don't want that. I just think business should be boring, because if it's boring, it means you're doing something, you follow a process, and you know what the result should kind of look like. You know, it should just be a machine that just works, and it's boring. And that's why I say it's boring. If there's roller coasters and you want all that drama, then it's just going to be hectic. And I'm like, that's not the type of business I want. I want a business that I'm like, I hit a button, it's going to produce this, and then that means I make X profit or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's what drives me, Lynn, is just like, I want to create it so it's boring to the point where people in our team are just, there's that time, right? They got that time to go focus and do other things. When I say it's boring, the process should be standard and you should know what it is, but that gives you time to go build new things, to go innovate or whatever it is.
Such a good point. I never heard of that thing before, but I do know what it's like, because you can predict, and every day you turn up and you know what to do. You don't have to think about it. But when you have to think about things, it's stressful for the brain and you're overwhelmed. So that's what you're trying to get in terms of like keeping it, make it boring is the goal.
Yeah, like it sounds silly, right? Like, why would I make it repetitive so that I pretty much don't need to be in the business? But that's the idea, right? Is create it so that it's not dependent on you, Lynn. And like before I came in, it's like every decision was dependent on you, Lynn, to make it. And so we create a system so that it's not dependent on you. You can then go on your holiday. You can then go spend time with your family, do whatever, and the business still runs, right? And that's the idea. And I think a lot of people just get caught up in the idea of I have to be in control. If I'm not in control, I'm not the one making the decisions, then there'll just be chaos. But if you put the right systems and principles in, then it's a bit easier doing that transition.
Now the question is, when do you start systemizing? Is it systemizing from day one, or is it like after you've been doing everything for a while and then you think about systemizing? But what would your recommendation be?
That's a very good question, and this is the flip side of both. Is if you go with the approach like, oh, I'm going to build this massive empire, but you only just started, right? You have nothing there, no one there. It's just you. You probably even haven't sold or made your first sale yet, right? And so I always suggest, look, just do what you need to do to get the sale across, to get the money in the door first. And you don't need to systemize then. If you try and systemize before you even make your first sale, it's like, you're trying to make it perfect before you even get started, right? And, there's this approach of like, do I do it then or do it later? And I always recommend do it what we call like a quick and dirty, right? Which is go out, pitch your idea to someone, see if they would buy, right? Get them to put their credit card down and buy it. And then that's when oh crap, I got to go do something now. Then you go and figure out how you need to do it. And that's where most entrepreneurs are at. They're very good at starting and like making things as they go, right? And it's only until you hit about, I don't know, I reckon that earliest stage is probably doing it 5-6 times in a row. Because at that point, that the market wants it enough that you're like, there's enough people who have proven that they want this idea. Maybe I can start optimizing what I do instead of being like, running from one thing to another to just fulfill. And only then that's when it's worth evaluating. Not even saying starting to systemize, but you evaluate what are the things that eat up my time the most. And for most entrepreneurs at the start, it's like the delivery of whatever the service or product is. It's the operational work, and that's what you should probably outsource first. Because then that frees you up to go do more of what you should be doing, which is going out and making sales, right? And that's the interesting thing is like some people will try and outsource the sales first, but I say no, they shouldn't do that. It's the operational admin stuff that they outsource first, and then you go out and make more sales. And that's how you grow your company.
Okay. How do you recommend people systemize? Is it like they use a Word document, typing out the questions, or what is the method to systemizing?
There's plenty of things you can do, right? And I think Lynn in our Grow course, right, we talk about a few. There's two main ones I probably recommend first. Let's just say this, you're so busy, you don't know what you're doing, right? And you're just doing stuff, and there's a lot of things going on. So what I usually recommend is first do like what I call like a time audit, which is you can get a piece of paper, a spreadsheet, whatever, and you list down every half hour. You put an alarm on your phone so it just buzzes, and then you write down what did you do in that last half hour, right? And you do that for a week, 2 weeks, and you collect this data of like, this is what I'm actually doing, and then you start picking out, okay, what doesn't make sense for me to do? What should I eliminate? And so you got the first part, which is that sheet or the diary of all your tasks that you do each half hour for, the most of your working day. Then you go through what we call the focus funnel, right? And this wasn't from me, it was from the guy, Rory Vaden. He created this idea and the model of the focus funnel, which is you fill up at the top with all the tasks that you do, and you go through each stage of what do I have to eliminate first, right? And then, you start taking out the stuff that doesn't add value, that you shouldn't be doing, right? Then you start automating. You highlight which ones do you think you could automate easily, right? And this is the trap as well. It's like some people are like, oh, I can automate this proposal stuff. But if that takes $20,000 for you to automate, probably you're not in the right space for that yet. So then that's where you then go down to the next phase, which is delegating, right? You want to figure out, okay, which one of these automate tasks that I can't automate because it costs too much. Now I'm going to figure out the cheaper option, which is maybe delegating it out, right? And so that's where you then flag, letters next to each of the tasks. It might be a D for delegate. Then, once you figure out who you can delegate to or what you can delegate to, then it's focusing next onto what you should concentrate on. What are you really good at? What gives you energy? What makes you really the superstar, right? And so then that allows you to then focus on the main tasks. you should focus on. And then from there's the last part, which is the P, right? Which is procrastinate. It's where you do things, but it might not be as important for you to do them right now. So then you choose purposely, and that's why his book is Procrastinate on Purpose, and you choose which tasks you can procrastinate on because it's not as critical as what you should be concentrating. So that's kind of the method I'd suggest to filter through what you should actually focus on and delegate.
Yeah. And then when you try to systemize, is it like you put all the process on a Word document and share it with your team? Or I guess I wanted to know about the tool that they could use to create the systems.
Yeah, the tool we use at OA is a bit more advanced, right? Not everyone probably needs it, but we use, System Hub, right? Which is a really good tool. And this is the thing from the book as well, Systemology is, and the thing I really attest to is most people will think, I can put in my project management tool with all my programs and all of that, right? But I always suggest have a specific area dedicated that it's just your processes, your systems only. And it can't be a Google Drive folder. It can't be a Dropbox folder, right? Because folders, they're made for just storing things, right? What you need is a system to capture and maintain your systems and processes. And so that's what System Hub is there for, so that we tell our team, hey, all your processes are over here. If you're smaller and it's just you and you're getting your first VA, then I recommend getting you can create a project management board, and we use Trello and we give that to our clients. This is the board, and in this one column in this board is where all your processes are, and you make it a specific color so everyone knows black is like the templates or processes. And so when it comes to documenting that, I recommend usually try and keep it to something like that. Maybe I'll show it on the screen. Yeah, let's see. I should have it open. Let's see. It's easy for me to explain it like this. So this is what we give out to every one of our clients. It's what we call like the virtual headquarters. It's everything a VA needs to do his or her job. So we break it up into columns here. And so on the left-hand side is the resources. It's the things that they need, logins or specific URLs to maybe emails, right? Or the blogs and the websites if they need to do their job, right? All you go in is put in the details of how they log in, right? The second part here is the most important, but this is where we document processes. An example of this is, we would have part here, and if you don't have time, you're short on time, all you need to do is just shoot a Loom video, right, of you doing the task. Yeah, and this is important if you're looking for a VA, because you're probably doing the thing on your computer anyway. So, you can just screen record it and, copy the URL here, you paste it in, and that's your process. That's as little as you need to do, right? Don't do a 20-minute video because no one's going to watch it, right? They're going to get lost. And then if you have time, I suggest writing down the steps, right, in here. And so, then you would just create separate cards for each process to make it easy. And the reason why we cram it in here is this column's all processes, then everything else is, normal work stuff, right? So that makes it easier for people to have things in one area to find it all. So
so when people join, we even give them that template so they could duplicate for themselves and modify it. So you basically made it simple where these are all the logins that you're going to have to put in so that your VAs know where to access, and then these are the steps, right? And that in itself is systemizing, but I guess do it in a quick way, that will make it efficient working with the VA. Because if you hire a VA and you don't give them any of these information, you're going to be just back and forth asking for things.
Yeah, and then some people do the old-fashioned way, which is let's go on a Zoom call for 2 hours and I'll show you how to do it, right? But then they don't record it. So then what happens when the VA leaves, right? What happens when you hire another VA who's now taking over her role, right? Then that person has to spend time to go train up the other person. It's all in someone's head. Idea is you want to get it out of your head and onto paper, we'll call it, right? So that then, I shoot it once, I give it to my VA. If that VA ends up not being good or whatever, I hire another VA and I say, go watch this, right? And so I don't need to spend my time there and bouncing back and forth all the time.
Yeah. And then once you hire someone to work on something, they can be the one creating systems as well. And as they're helping you with whatever work, they can help you with systems too, right? It's not all up to the business owner to have to always feel like they have to come up with everything and have to do everything, right?
Correct. I would suggest obviously if you give them a new process and you say, go do this, figure it out, right? You apply the same rules. Get them to do it a few times to then get to the point where they feel competent right? If they're competent enough, then you ask them, hey, look, can you just record this and start documenting some of this down so that, we have a process going down. Then you review it, right? To then look at it from a clean perspective of like, does this make sense? Is this enough information for someone to just pick up and do? And so that's the process there. Is it smooth? Is it as good as you would do it? Maybe, maybe not, right? But yeah, that's what I would recommend if you want to expand out. It doesn't become you being the bottleneck for your own systems.
Yeah, I can't wait to interview you next time, getting deeper into the whole delegation of decisions as well, because I think that's another topic on its own. But I guess we wrap this up with what are the recommended resources that they can read more, learn more around the systems that you have that has helped you?
I reckon if you ask me, then like certain things that you want to read is there's a productivity books, right? I mean, that can help, but if there's only one or two, I would recommend it be that Procrastinate on Purpose really helps a lot to, you can try and prioritize and all of that, but most people just end up being good at prioritizing, right? It's like, oh, I just changed my list around. It feels like I'm productive, but you're not. And so that book really goes deeper to be like, you have to also think about a third metric to measure tasks on, which is significance. It's like, this is what I keep thinking about. Like, if I do this now, it takes me 5 minutes, but I will have to keep doing it every day or whatever, every week, in the future. But how do I get that off so I can get more time in the future? So Procrastinate on Purpose by Rory Vaden, really amazing. Then the Systemology book by Dave Jennings, like that's really opened my up further from, especially if you're starting out, you might think, oh, how does this apply to me? But it's about once you get bigger, it's like you don't expect the person who does the task to write it up, because they're already concerned with trying to do the tasks. You need a systems champion to come follow, to shadow them, to write it, document it for them, and then they review it so that they can then, the person who does it can be like, oh, we're missing this or missing that. Like those types of books have really changed, I guess, my perspective and how we roll it out here. Still not the perfect thing here we have, Lynn, but we're getting better at it. And that's what I would recommend to get started.
Yeah, I love those recommendations. And I would even throw in there one book that helped me systemize the whole business model is Built to Sell. Because sometimes without the right business model and thinking systematically about how do I deliver this one service well, yeah, that's kind of like the foundation. So I also recommend Built to Sell as a really good one because it got my mindset to be focused and systematic in that sense too.
Yeah, so you don't customize all the time, right?
Yes, and I think it's hard to systemize if you're always thinking about how do I just do everything for everybody, customize everything because it's impossible to systemize because then you've got too many services, too many ways to deliver this. So that's why systems will be impossible to create. But when you have one simple product, it's a lot easier to systemize. So thank you so much, Richard. I'm sure our viewers have learned a lot through this. And if you have any questions, guys, you're watching this, you want to learn more or ask any questions, leave in the comments. But we will invite Richard again next time to talk about delegation and more tool stuff, all the tools and software that you've introduced. I think we can go deeper in that as well. Thank you, Richard.
No worries, Lynn. Thanks, guys.
There you go. Hope you've learned a thing or two about systemizing. I'd love to hear in the comments below, what system are you building this month? Now, if you love this kind of video, there's more video like this for you to watch over here. But thank you so much for watching and love to hear from you. If you have any questions, challenges that you'd like me to explore and share with you my advice on, then don't hesitate to comment here and I'll see you next time.